Hi, interweb. Today I'm going to talk about Swords of Wizardry official style of combat. And I'll show you in another video what I tend to use. This one's a little, it makes sense theoretically on how it works. I just think it's a little cumbersome, but it was like one of the original styles of combat that came out. And I have a nice little flow through to kind of show what's going on. If you go to drduic.com and you click on the icosahedron that looks like an atom, and you scroll down to where it says official style combat, and you click this, you can have a click through, you can show with your gaming group or students at school. Like I said, I teach high school kids, and I play with middle school kids too as well. So I have to do these things to make sure everybody understands what's going on. I do visuals because that's how I learned. So here's combat initiative. So this is actually from page 36 on Swords of Wizardry Complete. And this is the list of things, 6 things. First you check for surprise, then you have to declare spells, and the next thing is determine the initiative by rolling a d6 for each side. And then you have a movement and missile phase, and then you have a melee, combat, and spell phase. And the round's complete, and you go back to 2, and it just kind of repeats itself. So I'm going to actually flip through and show how this would look in a combat style setting, because it is kind of hard to visualize this, and I think they do a write-up, but let's do it with images because I think it's easier for people to understand. So here we go. Here's our first scenario. An adventurer wins the first initiative roll, and the monsters win the second initiative roll. So for the first round of battle, adventurers are winning the initiative. So a ranger rolls d6 and gets a 2, no surprise. Rangers and monks only surprise on a roll of 1, but the monsters roll a d6 and get a 4, and they're also no surprise. So the first phase is declare spells. So the magic user says he's going to use a sleep spell. So an acolyte Orcus will cast fear spell, because that's what the DM's going to write down. I advise writing these things down and putting on a piece of paper and putting on the board so people think you're not changing your mind. I make spellcasters do the same. Write them down, put them on the board. So no one's changing their mind partway through, right? And the idea behind it is like it's going to go towards the magic user and probably hit most of the party. So the monster adventurers roll. So the ranger rolls a d6, gets a 5. Monsters roll a d6 and get a 3. So the adventurers are going to attack first. So then you have the 2 different phases. First one's movement and missiles, and second one's melee and spells. This is according to Swords and Wizardry. So the winner's initiative, the cleric will move into battle with the orcs, and the fighter is going to parry in front of the magic user. I love the parry technique because it's going to save your, what I call the glass cannon, the one that's going to actually do a lot of damage in the back. They don't have a high armor class, so they need someone to block things that are coming at them so their spells go to completion. The loser's initiative, the 2 orcs will shoot towards the magic user, and while 2 more orcs are going to run and engage the fighter and the cleric. So here's the melee and spells. So the winner's initiative, cleric attacks the orcs, right? Magic user casts sleep spell, and the loser initiative, 2 orcs attack the cleric. Acolyte Orcus is going to cast the fear spell. So we're going to see how this works, right? So this is our scenario. So first thing, neither group's surprised. So we have all our guys playing here: magic user, ranger, fighter, cleric. Here's the acolyte, and he's got his archers up here and 2 orcs with spears down here, right? So the spells were declared. Magic user, I'm going to cast sleep on this group right here, and the acolyte is going to cast fear in the direction of the magic user, because they know that these guys are the loose variables here. So the adventurer is going to go first. They won the initiative. And the first thing that's going to happen is the missiles and movement phase. So the ranger gets 2 shots. He's going to shoot both at the acolyte, right? The movement phase is still going on. The cleric's going to go and engage these 2 orcs, and the fighter is going to protect the actual magic user in this sense by standing in front of him and acting as a meat shield. I think this is really an important part of fighters. They have to protect the guys that they cannot protect themselves. So they all move into position. Now the losers are going to do their missile and movement phase. This is where it's really broken up, and it's actually several segments going on in one round. So these archers are all going to fire. They get 2 shots per turn. The fighter stands in the way of it. It's going to block what's coming at the magic user. This is really important for battle concepts, right? They're Archers aren't stupid. Orcs aren't stupid. They've one time somewhere heard a story about some guy got in there in a robe, stood on the top of a cliff, and threw this giant fireball and knocked out half their troops. So they know this guy's not good. Guy ain't wearing armor, shoot him, right? Because he's going to be the bad guy, right? On their end, these two guys are going to engage this cleric. He also looks like somewhat of a magic user, right? The only person not being attacked is the actual ranger, because he's not going to be the target. The next phase is the winners are going to do their part. So the magic user sleeps, the two archers, and one of the guys with the spears, I put those making them sleep, right? This guy's gonna get stabbed, right? So here it is, the cleric will hit first because the magic user, melee before spells, he strikes one of the orcs, killing him. And because the fighter blocked off 4 arrows, the magic user is able to cast a sleep on the enemies and is not disrupted from casting the spell. So whenever you do a sleep spell, the lowest monster should be affected first. So all the orcs will be affected. And the acolyte is high enough, level 7, that he is unaffected by that spell. So then the losers are going to go melee and cast spell, right? So Acolyte's fear spell was disrupted by the ranger, and remaining orcs are asleep, so no melee for them this round. If you remember way back when, the ranger, scroll back a little bit, shot twice at the Acolyte, right? Ranger hits the Acolyte, disrupting the fear spell. If you get hit, you are out of commission, right? So that's the first round of battle. Second round of battle, once again, declare monsters and adventurers roll for initiative. And then you have the movement and fire phase, and then you actually have the melee and spells. So the ranger's going to roll a d6, and he gets a 4, but the monsters roll a 6, and they're going to win the initiative. So monsters will attack first during the second round of battle, right? So then you have the movement and the missile phase. Acolyte will hold position to cast fear. And losers initiative, the ranger will fire arrows at the acolyte. Fighter and cleric will move to engage the acolyte in melee. So this is just kind of showing you the flow chart of action happening. So the winners of the initiative, the acolyte will cast fear. Losers initiative, the fighter attacks first with dexterity 18, the cleric attacks second with the dexterity 13. Then the magic user released the magic missile spell on the, the acolytes, so of Orcus. So here we go. We still got these guys snoozed out. Magic user is going to cast magic missile. Acolyte is going to cast fear. So the monsters go first because they won the initiative. And what's he going to do? He's going to hold his position. He's going to cast a spell, right? So he's going to cast the fear spell. So the winners are going to now, that finishes their phase from missiles and movement. So then the losers are now going to have their missiles and movement. So once again, the ranger is going to shoot upon the acolyte. Fighter's going to run to engage the acolyte, and the cleric's going to run to engage the acolyte. So if he hits him again, that's going to disrupt the fear spell. So the spell's never going to get off. The fighter cleric are now going to move into position, and they are not in melee. This guy, of course, will dispatch those arrows from him faster than they're running. So you don't have to roll to find out whether or not they get accidentally hit, right? So there's no randomness of getting shot. This is really kind of important with this kind of combat style. So they've been fired upon, and this was disruptive. So he's actually going to be able to cast a spell. So I do let this happen in the sense that if his spell gets disrupted, he's able to make another action. And in this case, the acolyte would grab a mace and go ahead and engage the fighter and try to make a hit, right? So then the fighter, he's going to attack first, faster than the cleric because it's a dexterity order at this point. He attacks first, hits at the melee, and the cleric's going to hit second and gets a +2 because he's flanking. If this is head on, I consider it flanking. This is +2, and behind is from +2. So I think it's like 2-on-1. You're actually going to be able to get a bonus with fighting. And the magic user releases magic missile, hits automatically doing 1d4 with the damage +1. So all 3 attacks kill the acolyte, and the battle is officially over. And that is the end of round 2. So in the end, what do we have? The fighter kills the remaining orcs. I don't think they should have to make an attack roll. You just jank them, you know what I'm saying? So they're slow, prone to sleep. I mean, it just seems kind of stupid to roll dice for things that should be simple. But if you were on the ground, got knocked down, you would normally have that guy making an attack at a +4 if he's still able to fight. Say not asleep, but got knocked down for some reason. So here's a different scenario. Let's play this out another way. Let's say the monsters win the first initiative instead of the adventurers. This is going to change things drastically. Um, but then the adventurers are going to win the third initiative. Let's see how this plays out. So once again, two rolls are going to be made. Nobody's surprised, right? And I'm doing that for all practical reasons. It's just an extra attack, but I'm leaving it out. So we're going to do the same thing. Magic user is going to cast Sleep. Acolyte Orcus cast Fear. But this time, the Ranger rolls a 2, and the monsters get a 3. So now they're going to go first. So the 2 orcs will shoot arrows towards the magic user, while 2 more orcs run to engage the fighter and the cleric. The losers the initiative, right? The cleric's going to move to battle with the orcs, just like they did before. Fighter's going to parry in front of the magic user, which is going to probably try to stop the idea of them firing upon the magic user. Like, this is all declared before the dice are rolled, all right? So then the winners, all right, of the melee section, the 2 orcs are going to attack the cleric, the acolyte Orcus will cast Fear, and the loser initiative, the clerics are going to attack the orcs, and magic user will cast Sleep. This is what's going to happen. Of course, it's going to play out differently based on who won initiative. So here, neither group's surprised. We know that phase 1, okay? So then the next thing, the spells declare. Acolyte is the Fear. Magic user is going to declare Sleep. So monsters are going first. This changes things immensely, right? Because we know for a fact the archers are going to try to pick off that magic user. They don't trust him. He's a guy in a robe. He's crazy. So all 4 are going to fire him, right? And let's just play, he's got an AC of 10. It's going to hit him. And so the magic user is dead. He's not going to get a spell off. Let's just say this is a low-level adventuring party, right? Then these 2 guys are going to run to engage these 2, right? So orcs move into position. So the next phase would be the losers. Ranger fires 2 arrows. His plan still happens the same way, disrupting the acolyte from casting Fear. But because the orcs were able to cover the entire distance in their charge, the fighter changes the movement plans where he's going to go to the magic user. He's going to be flanked otherwise. So this is the only time you're able to change things in action because somebody just ran up on you, right? You just can't, you're not going to run in front of the magic user because you're getting stopped. So they're going to probably hold position, and they're essentially engaged in melee. Of course, if you wanted him to keep going to the magic user as a dungeon master, that's a great idea, but this orc gets an attack opportunity based on the fact that he's now moving away from him in battle. All right. So the acolyte cannot cast Fear spells disrupt because of the rangers firing. The magic user cannot cast because he's dead. The orcs were going to attack melee with spears, and the fighter is hit, but the cleric is missed in battle. So this is a weird thing. So this is a house rule, and I think it's in the 1st edition Dungeons & Dragons, I believe. Since the orcs charge in the battle with spears, they get a +2 in their attack, and they do 2d6 worth of damage. The fighter can set against charge with the spear if that was his weapon of choice, and he knew this was happening. He would get a +4 to attack and a 2d6 worth of damage. And the pole arms even more. I like to, if they can think this ahead of time, I'm going to set against charge, or I'm going to do this. You can actually get these bonuses for the actual players, which is a lot of fun. So the losers melee cannot be obviously spells lost. The fighter is going to get his turn to hit, right? When he does, he has 2-handed sword. He does a critical, kills that orc. Cleric swings and hits the orc, but the orc is still alive. So now that's the end of the 1st round of battle. Now we're going to go to the 2nd round of battle. Same thing. There's only 1 caster left, the acolyte. So he's going to cast magic missile on the ranger, fighter, and the cleric. He can shoot 3 missiles, right? All will hit automatically for 1d4 with the damage and cast into melee without hitting the orcs because of the fact that it is an automatic hit with magic missile. Monsters Adventurers are going to roll for initiative, right? So let's say the group gets a 4 and monsters get a 1, so the actual adventuring party gets to act first in this case, right? We just switched the order compared to last time. And then the winners of initiative, Ranger fires on the acolyte to disrupt the spell magic missile. Fighter moves towards the acolyte from melee, and cleric will hold the position and fight the orc. Loser initiative, the orc archers will fire upon the ranger and charging fighter. Okay, so this is what's going to happen. And then you have melee and spells. So the winner of the initiative fires. The cleric will attack in melee. Fighter goes first. He has dexterity 18. Cleric goes second, dexterity 13. And the losers of the initiative, the orcs, will attack the fighter and the cleric, and acolyte will cast magic missile. So let's see how this plays out. So here we go. There's only one spell that can be declared. It's by the acolyte because the magic user is taken out of action. He's going to say, I'm going to cast magic missile on each one of those dudes, right? The ranger, the fighter, and the cleric. So the adventurers go first because they won the initiative. And so they're going to fire missiles, the ranger, 2 on the acolyte. He's going to disrupt the spell, right? So firing 2, he disrupts the magic missile spell. I have this ranger being Mac Daddy. He seems to always be hitting his target. Good on him, right? And the fighter is now going to run because he's already killed this dude and engage the acolyte. Right? We're going for the higher target here. The assumption here is that the ranger's a good enough shot that he's not going to shoot the fighter before it gets into the path. He's not going to shoot this way. The guy is this way. This is where you just have to adjudicate, think, in this scenario, what's the chance of this fighter being hit? Pretty weak. He's probably going to be much slower than 2 arrows being shot, right? And the cleric's going to keep going with the orc with the spear, except that's not in this phase yet. So now the losers are going to shoot. These 2 guys are going to shoot here. These guys were targeting the fighter who's run, right? But now, because he's crossed path, and now he's in range with the acolyte, these 2 guys have this guy firing 2 shots, 50% chance it'll hit the acolyte. So I have it split up here. 1 arrow hits the fighter, 1 hits the acolyte. These 2 are direct hits towards the ranger, but only one's actually going to hit him, right? So this is, once again, you're just kind of like, you got to move pieces. Miniatures are really helpful for this. Obviously, you can draw this out on paper when you're playing with your group. So now the fighter attacks first in melee, and he's flanking him, came from the side. He's trying to cast this way. Ranger's shooting at him. He's flanking from the side. He's going to get a bonus. Now, you could take this away if you say, well, he's on top of him. He'll be from the side. It's, once again, it's a DM's discretion on these things. The cleric will attack, score the hit, kill the second orc with a sphere. So he's done, right? So then the losers, he's no longer around, so he cannot cast a spell. And no one else is engaged in melee. He's been killed before it happened. At the end of round 2. So the 3rd round battle, let's clean this up. There's no spellcasters, they're gone. So ranger rolls a d6, gets a 3, monsters roll a 2, and this starts all over again. Once again, this, like I said, every round you're rolling a d6 to find out who's going first. This can greatly change how battles are played out, okay? So the winners of the initiative, the ranger fires on the orcs, 1 arrow for each orc. Fighter and cleric move towards the orcs to engage in melee. Loser initiative, orc archer will fire upon the ranger and the charging fighter. So then the melee hits, the fighters and the cleric will attack the orcs, and fighter attacks gun first because he has dexterity 18, and the cleric attacks second with a dexterity of 13. Loser initiative, no melee attacks this round because everyone else is basically a ranged fighter. That's what you have left. So here we go. No spells. That phase is done. Adventurers go first because they won the initiative, and so now you have the attack, right? Here's a movement. Fighter's going to move on this guy. Cleric's going to move on this guy. The ranger's going to fire to do on each one. Ranger usually shoots 2 arrows before the cleric and the fighter get in position, hitting both of the orcs. God, that ranger is awesome. I want that ranger on my team, right? Next one is that the orc's going to fire an arrow at the ranger, then drops his bow and grabs his sword. He will not get a melee attack, right? So if he fires, he has got to decide. This guy makes the choice. He says, oh my God, the guy's within 5 feet of me. I'm just going to go ahead and make sure I've engaged him in battle. So it's a way of like, once again, it's stylistic. DM decides how that's going to play out, right? The cleric is not hit by the orc archer because he is in melee range. He will not be able to be hit with an arrow. You're less than 5 feet. It's not going to happen, right? So the next phase is the fighter attacks, kills the first one with a 2-handed sword. Cleric goes crazy with his mace and knocks out the other guy, right? That's the end of the 3rd round. So in the end of the battle, this one went horribly worse because the magic user is killed. The reason why is because they lost the first round of initiative. In the other case, the fighter is able to come up and parry in front of the magic user, blocking that from happening. But in this case, because they lost the initiative on the first round, magic user suffers a horrible fate. And that pretty much covers it. I hope you had an enjoyable time watching this. Hope it makes sense. But this is the official Swords of Wizardry combat initiative system. I've used it several times. I like it, but then again, I have another version of this which is much cleaner and smoother, and I kind of run that instead because this one, so I think certain characters or players will find it frustrating. But I like it. Depends on whether your players like it. Okay. With that, internet, you have a wonderful day.